Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss mystical works of literature and how they relate to recovery. We hope you enjoy today's podcast episode.
Hello, this is Buddy C. Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. Today we have Brian and Drew and Lou. Good to have you guys today. We will be talking about Lao Tzu's Wake, story in Thomas Merton's interpretation of Chuang Tzu's work, who was a student of Lao Tzu, who we tribute to writing the Tao Te Ching, which we all study and has really helped us in our path of recovery. We're all in recovery in some form of recovery, either Al-Anon or some 12-step for some addictive behavior. So we talk about how these works really speak to us of the higher power. It's not something that's religious. There is a Taoist religion, but we're talking about Taoist philosophy, which actually really highlights and works with my Christianity rather than against it. So don't think you have to adopt a new religion for this to be helpful to you, because I did not, and it helps me a lot. One benefit I want to talk about today, let's talk about Transitions Daily, transitionsdaily.org, daily email that if you're in recovery and you read any of the AA dailies, you can have all those in one email, or the majority of them anyway. As Bill sees it, 24 hours, daily reflections, quotes, and all kinds of things. Goes out in a daily email. It's not marketed anywhere. Your email is not on any other email list at all. That's not done. There's, I think, 22,000 on that list now. I don't know. I've lost count. I have to check on that. There's lots of folks, so lots of people trust it on a daily basis. You can sign up by going to transitionsdaily.org, other resources there, including a private Facebook group, so forth and so on. Let's get to our reading today. Lao Tzu's Wake. Lou, would you mind reading that for us today, sir?
I'll give it a go. This is Lao Tzu's Wake. Lao Tan lay dead. Qin Shi attended the wake, let out 3 yells, and went home. One of the disciples said, "Were you not the master's friend?" "Certainly," he replied. "Is it then sufficient for you to mourn no better than you have just done?" "In the beginning," said Qin Shi, "I thought he was the greatest of men. No longer. When I came to mourn, I found old men lamenting him as their son, young men sobbing as though for their mother. How did he bind them to himself so tight? If not by words, we should have never said, and tears he should never wept. By words he should never have said, and tears he should never have wept. He weakened his true being. He laid on the land, he laid on load upon load of emotion, increased the enormous reckoning. He forgot the gift of God had entrusted to him. This is the ancient called punishment for neglecting the true self. The master came at his right time into the world. When his time was up, he left it again. He who awaits his time, who submits when his work is done, in his life there is no room for sorrow or for rejoicing. Here is how the ancient said all this in 4 words. God cuts the thread. We have seen a fire of sticks burn out. We have seen a fire of sticks burn out. The fire now burns in some other place. Where? Who knows? These brands are burnt out.
Thank you, Lou. Okay, we had a story last week about 3 friends, and one of the friends passed, and Drew and I had a good discussion about that. This week, this is Lao Tzu's Wake, so this is the teacher of Taoism as we know it, of Taoist thought, the big guy, right? This is his wake after he's passed. Okay. His name, he was also known as Lao Tan, same person. So I'll just call him Lao Tzu through this then. I don't think his name says just he. So Lao Tzu lays dead. So we have the fact, according to the story, that he's dead. And Chen attended the wake. He just let out 3 yells and went home. Okay. One of his disciples said, "Were you not the master's friend?" Talking to Chen. And he replied, "Is it then sufficient for you to mourn no better than you have just done?" So Chen's disciples were perplexed in that he mourned so little for his master, is the way I'm seeing it. Guys, please, if y'all see it any different, let me know. Said he was a friend of the master's, yes. Is it then sufficient for you to mourn no better than you've just done? In the beginning, said Chen, I thought he was the greatest of men. No longer. When I came to mourn, I found old men lamenting him as their son, young men sobbing as though for their mother. How did he bind them to himself so tight, if not by words he should never have said, and tears he should never have wept? So I don't know for sure if Chen was a disciple of Lao Tzu. It says he's his friend, okay? He said that being he saw these other people mourning in such a way that Lao Tzu had somehow not taught them the acceptance of things, I would think, or the acceptance of what's going on. And he's saying the way he's saying it, it's Lao Tzu's fault that these people are so. Why didn't he teach them correctly? In other words, it's what I'm thinking. Because in their thinking, this is how I perceive that they approach death. Death is just a part of life. It's just as natural as being born. We rejoice at birth, and most people grieve at death. Would it be just as natural to grieve at birth and rejoice at death? I don't know. There's a level of acceptance here because all of this grief in his thinking is due to a lack of acceptance of what is, the lack of the way things are. Or actually this, not the grief, but the need to grieve. Because if you feel grief, you need to let that out. We never need to tell ourselves, or at least the way I see it, that grief is not acceptable. If you feel grief, you need to let that out. The real question is, why are you feeling that grief? So it's taking it a step back. It's like with fear. I'm angry. You want to be rid of the anger, but the anger is not the problem. What's behind the anger is the problem.
Mhm.
He's saying here, I think, that Lao Tzu did not, if Lao Tzu would have taught these people correctly or taught them the truth or the way, they would not have the need to grieve so much. And then he goes on to quote more Chen does. He weakened his true being. He laid on load upon load of emotion, increased the enormous reckoning. He forgot the gift of God. He forgot the gift God had entrusted to him. This the ancients called punishment for neglecting the true self. So Chen is saying that Lao Tzu forgot the gift God had entrusted him. Lou?
I think it's interesting too, buddy, that from a cultural standpoint, during the time of Confucius, which Lao Tzu and Confucius were contemporaries, the Confucian funerals were really elaborate affairs. You've seen probably some of the archaeology of the terracotta soldiers and all his whole army buried with the nobleman or with the leader, and it was that kind of a thing with, I think, like a week-long mourning and gifts for the dead and all these kinds of things going on. So it was a big respect and honor and that kind of remembrance, whereas the Taoist influence, as you said later, became simplicity, but the mourners were acting like the Confucians do rather than the teachings of Taoism. And I think that may be part of the context for what he's saying here.
Thank you, Lou. I
Maybe.
totally forgot about that. Thank you. There's actually, I think there's a story in here too about people being professional mourners, even that there were professional mourners at that time. I know I read in some literature. So thank you. I'd forgotten that. That's very good context. Yes. That makes it much more applicable. Thanks, Lou. So he's saying that Lao Tzu forgot the gift God had and I double checked, and Lao Tan and Lao Tzu are known to be the same person. I want to make sure I got that. So he forgot the gift God had entrusted him. He laid all of this emotion and all these things on the shoulders of his disciples. And this is punishment for neglecting the true self. As we talk about this, we can also apply it to daily life because we have deaths continually in our life, seasons. Each season is a form of death because the season's ending. We have all these endings and beginnings, births and deaths in everything, always happening. And this grief, this could be part of holding on to the past. For the way I can apply it to me is me thinking of times in the past that I remember as being very happy that I wished I could live again, that kind of a thing. I don't think I'm unique in that regard. But when I do that, he says I'm neglecting the true self. I'm punishing myself. I'm in punishment because I'm neglecting the true self. Not the little self, but what really is. That's good. The master came at his right time. Okay, Lao Tzu came at the right time. This is still Chin talking here. He came at the right time into the world. When his time was up, he left it again. He who awaits his time, who submits, when his work is done in his life, there is no room for sorrow or for rejoicing. Here's how the ancients said all this in 4 words. God cuts the thread. Okay, so we come at the right time in the world. Could situations in our life come at the right time? Could our purpose come at the right time, even though we may not see it? But that season, that job, that relationship, all those things, relationships, because it doesn't necessarily mean some kind of physical, like partner relationship, but friendships, people we come across, all those things. When I say relationship, I'm including all of that. Comes at the right time. And when the time's up for whatever it is, he left it again. Brian?
Buddy, what's coming up for me is I'm thinking about recovery and people that come into the rooms and dip a toe in the pool, and you think, man, this guy will be back. His ass is on fire. He'll be back. And you never see him again, or vice versa. And you think, man, this guy or gal doesn't have much unmanageability. I really don't know if they got a problem. And it sticks with them. And it's just that miracle that you don't know when it's going to happen. But I can definitely relate to the job piece. My wife is struggling with some of that right now. And, it's a whole lot different when you're in it. And I'm looking at it as something where the wheels have to turn, and she's been pretty wrapped up in it. And so it's definitely a good reading. Acceptance of life on life's terms. I'm hearing some of that in there.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Lou?
Yeah, similar to Brian with those transitions. I'm just beginning to transition into an age that ends with 0 and 8-6.
50. You're
And
turning 50 or 60, right?
I'm turning seven.
Or 50
70.
then.
Um,
Yeah.
and the relationship things, that transition of relationships is really interesting because this month I'm going to do my last consulting gig. I think I've said that 4 different times. So the work relationships aren't there anymore. And I find myself connecting way back to friendships I had, some of them going back to kindergarten. And once a month we get together, 8 or 12 of us that all were in school together. So the relationships are going back to that. But what I've been thinking about lately is my relationship with my body, because that's really different. And I hope I'm coming to terms with that and not doing the big morning. Oh no, my shoulder hurts, my knees hurt, my feet hurt, that kind of thing, but trying to ease into that relationship change that I have with my own body. So this is a good verse for me today. Thanks.
Thank you, Lou. Yeah, I have a tendency to want to take this and put it out as something huge when the more I can drill it down to something that I can use that applies to me, the more helpful it is to me, because it does no good to philosophically think you've got a handle on what something says. That's worthless. If it doesn't apply to me today, I don't want it, quite honestly. Because I think that's what this is all about. It's interesting, Chin says, when it was the right time, he came into the world. When his time was up, he left it again. No more emphasis on the leaving than the arriving. I have a dog that I'm pretty close to. And one day I was thinking about, I don't know, something up. I'll outlive this dog, blah, blah, blah. And then I realized there's just one dog. I don't know why that was important for me to understand. I said, oh, so if Rex passes, the next dog is still Rex. Just like everything is all the same. Oh, okay. That helped me with the oneness of all of this. So in effect, that's what he's saying here, is that it's just its season. There's no reason for all the fanfare. We didn't have all that fanfare when we were born. So why are we having it when we think of die as something permanent, because we can't see, we don't know what's coming after we die. Anything that we say about what's going to happen is pure conjecture. Even people who have had NDEs, near death experiences, they don't know whether that was actually happening or something in their mental construct. Now, they do have, I've looked at some things where they knew things that they shouldn't have known, like out of the room, different things going on around the hospital, let's say, that there's no way they would have known that. So there is something happening there. I don't know, some connectivity, something. But I can't figure that out. I quit trying to figure that out a long time ago. Began to focus on what I can use now and try to stay only with that. That's what I love about AA. When you go to a meeting, one of the first things you learn is, first, you don't talk about other people or things outside. You hear people, it's my wife or my husband or this or that. And real quick, you learn you may be called down in a meeting about it and get with someone after the meeting to talk about that. That's not why we're here. What we realize, it's about us and where we are at the moment. In a meeting, we share our experience, strength, and hope, not our inexperience, weakness, and despair. We are to save that for our sponsor. But it's about where we are in this moment. It's about what we can do, how we can apply the experience of others or the experience we can share with others that we have. And it's all in within what's working for us right now. So can we take these stories and look between the words, between the sentences, and get down to how this can apply to us right now? That's what we're after. If we're looking for something, that's what I'm looking for.
Buddy, what do you think about when I was reading it, I was struck by how he's bashing the leader, or the founder, or the spokesperson of his own spirituality, his own philosophy. And I was trying to think of a similar kind of thing in history and other religious texts and those kinds of things where somebody's just the calling out the leader as a fraud. First of all, that was fraud is the wrong word, but that was one aspect I thought of. And then the other I wonder what you think about this and other guys think about this. How much of that was the shock effect, trying to startle his disciple into looking at things in a different way? Because that happens in Zen and it happens in Taoism, where they make these statements that are like, what the heck? And then they get them thinking about things differently. I just thought about that and wondered what you guys thought.
I saw that too, Lou, and I don't have an opinion on it yet. I was just kind of let that sit till I had a little better. It could be that all of us, I'll just wait. Drew?
I don't tease us, buddy.
I don't know completely. I don't want to just hypothesize before I sit with it a little bit. That's all.
You mean like I did just now, buddy?
No, I thought you'd been sitting with it, Drew. Lou, I thought so.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Drew?
Yeah, well, the one thing it brought to my mind when Lou was asking about where have we seen something like this before, it's not exact, but I know in Zen there's the saying, if you come across the Buddha, kill him. It's not the person who matters, it's the teachings. So in this case, I have no idea if that's what they're going for in this story.
Yeah, thanks, Drew. That's what I was thinking. Thank you.
Yeah. But in this story, he may be telling everyone, hey, you're focused on the wrong thing. You're focused on the person. The person's not the one who's important. It's the teachings. His teachings didn't die with him. The vessel of the teachings is gone, but the teachings live on. It's that kind of, I know I'm skipping ahead a little. We haven't gotten there, but the very last few lines about the fire, this fire burns out, but the fire continues elsewhere. I think that's what that ties into.
Thank you, Drew. That makes a lot of sense. I was also thinking about maybe Chin is seeing this a little wrong in my thinking. We have no control over how someone interprets our experience or what we share, or in his example, what he teaches. So if his disciples or these people did not take his teaching to heart, this would be the response. And who knows how many of those people that were doing all of that was actually real grief or store-bought grief, which they did at that time. I think with you guys, Chin was using that as an example of for his disciples. Yeah. Okay. He who awaits his time, who submits when his work is done in his life, there is no room for sorrow or for rejoicing. So that's how in our daily life or in any action that should be our action. We submit when our work is done. We surrender in our work is how I would take that, or in whatever we're doing. living, that compassionate living that we talk about, that intention of helpfulness. And when we do that and we're living in the way, on the path, there's no room for sorrow or for rejoicing, especially when the work is done, when whatever it is over, there's no room for either sorrow or rejoicing. It's just done. There's no expectation to attach. Drew?
Yeah, I disagree with this a little bit. When my work is done, if I have a task and I do it, I think it's helpful for me to congratulate myself in some way, to give myself a little pat on the back, to say, hey, you did a really good job there, instead of just being done and just unemotionally moving on to the next task. That just seems really robotic. And if I do something and I screwed up, I think it's fine for me to be a little disappointed in myself and learn from it and move on. I do think it's not very helpful to make it about me. Hey, everyone, look what I did. Call attention to myself, boasting, or else on the flip side, just wallowing in self-pity or playing the martyr or something like that. I think that can be taken too far. This kind of reminds me of one of the things I don't like about Stoicism, which is the classic example of Stoicism is, and this comes from the original writers, is if you lose a child, then there is absolutely no room for grieving or sorrow or anything, because that's how the fates willed it, and you can't be sad about how the fates willed something. I do think there's a place for grieving, for being sad, for experiencing human emotions. And maybe there's the original wording of this in Chinese is a little different than the English translation. There may be a little more nuance, but I do think there's room for, when my work is done, feeling some healthy self-pride, not taking it too far, not, I think it is good to tell my wife, hey, there was this task that I was really dreading and I did it, and I'm really happy I did it, and I'm proud of myself. And for her to give me a little pat on the back, I think that's part of what community is. I think that's part of the benefit of being in relationships is we can celebrate each other's little victories, even if it's just doing the dishes. So I think there's a little more nuance to this teaching than is coming out. Maybe that's just me not reading it or understanding it correctly, but that's just my thoughts about it right now.
Thank you, Drew. I totally agree. And thank you for bringing that out, because I have a tendency to not mention that. I get emails about it sometimes, but whenever we accomplish anything, I think the difference is between accomplishing something and being grateful, finding some gratitude, or dealing with a situation, rather than the overt expectations of this satisfying something in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the difference, don't you think? I think it's always good if something goes well. Yeah, I can be grateful for that. Thank you, and share it, whatever. And then if there's some grief involved, experience the grief. He experienced his 3 yells was all the grief he needed. That was grief.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's maybe what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for bringing that out. I hadn't mentioned that. Maybe we could say in his life, there's no room for overt sorrow or let's say if we take this and apply it to us. Oh, Lou, what you got?
Oh, I was just going to say, with what Drew was talking about, part of the situation with Taoism is acceptance, to accept what is, and accept that you did a great job. You accept it. You don't have to deny it. You don't have to push it away. You can accept that's the case. And if you're sad in the morning, then you can accept that's real. That's what you're doing. And so I just wanted to put that 2 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you, Lou. Here's how the ancients said all this in 4 words. God cuts the thread. I have no thoughts on that sentence. Does anyone? I think I know what it's implying is that the thread is cut. God cuts the thread. The time is up. Any way that you want to say that, I think is what it's talking about. It's certainly beyond your control.
Yeah, that's what I thought about it.
Good. Yeah, definitely beyond our control. Brian?
Yeah, it's just.
I'm sorry, Drew. Go ahead.
Oh no,
Go ahead.
just saying when the clock strikes midnight, It happens to all of us. The clock will keep moving forward no matter what we do.
If we live long enough, we'll all experience retirement, won't we?
Mhm.
Can't slow that down.
Father Time is undefeated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah. What this comes up for me is I'm thinking about self-will and fear and just attempts at controlling either life or just anything. Work. I used to live in so much fear. When I would get that initial task to do, immediately my first thoughts were, this is going to come to an end soon. And it wasn't that I wasn't where my feet were going through the task. I was focusing on the finish line, the end, and dreading it. And it was interesting what you brought up around your dog. I had a lab that was really close to me. Duke went everywhere with me, and he died of cancer at about 5 years old. And I don't know if he was even ever on the podcast here, but man, I had a lot of. I remember when he got sick the first time, it was like this dread, and it took me quite a while to get any acceptance around that. So, yeah, that to me, that God cuts the thread. That just, I don't know, man. Those are some powerful words to me. I think it's something I need to remember, whether it's God or the universe or higher power or whatever. Is that it's, I really don't have a whole lot of control.
You could even say it's the moment.
It's the moment,
Ever-present moment.
ever present moment. Yeah.
It is, isn't it? Isn't that we talk about, if I know it's not in literature, it's not the thing to do, but you could even look at that as time cuts the thread. The next moment cuts the thread.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to have a God belief in the up there in the sky kind of thing for this to work for you, or vice versa.
Yeah.
When I see God, I just think that it's describing what we ourselves have the understanding of. So for all of us, that translates differently.
Mhm.
I've never known anyone that had exactly the same, close, but it's difficult to find folks that have exactly the same realization, because our realization, I think mine's always changing. Mine's always evolving. I'm always waking up a little more to what's going on.
Yeah.
We definitely know the cutting of the thread. And think about the thread. The thread is part of the fabric of all things, right? What is the thread a part of? What thread is your life a part of? We think we're different, but we're not. We're part of that thread of the fabric of everything. Back to that oneness. We have seen a fire of sticks burn out. The fire now burns in some other place. Where? Who knows? These brands are burnt out. The fire of Lao Tzu's life is gone. The fire of my job may be gone. The fire of a relationship may be gone. But what fire is next? Or in this situation, he's saying the fire may still be burning. It burns in some other place, is what he said. It's not burning here. So why do we have so much expectations tied into this fire continuing to burn when there's nothing left for it to burn? That would be unnatural. If the fire kept burning and there was no fuel for it to burn, that would be a problem. That wouldn't be something good. That'd be something bad. Any other thoughts on this, guys?
Buddy, I was thinking about a phrase that I've heard, and I believe it was in the promises in my program, and it says, we'll be grateful for what has been given, what has been taken, and what has been left behind. But coming at it from a recovery aspect, I'm grateful for the life that I left behind. And 15 years ago, if I'd have looked at the life I have now, I'd have been like, wow, that's pretty effing lame.
Yeah.
But today it's, wow, I have nothing to do and I got a book. Yay, I'm going to sit around and read.
Yeah, we can definitely see our life before recovery as a death and a new life. Another question I can ask myself is, what has died in my life that I'm still hanging on to?
Mm-hmm.
What's stinking? Why is this stinking so much? Why is there no satisfaction or peace or happiness in this that used to be? It's because it's dead and it's starting to deteriorate and it's stinking, as all dead things do. Lou?
Give it your 3 yells and let it go.
Sometimes that's so hard, Lou, because we can't, or I'll just speak for me, I can't sometimes see the new birth that's coming or the new thing. It's back to that example of being in the river. Let's say you're waist deep in the river and it's fairly swift, and you've got something coming down the river that you want, and you stop it. Just the time that it passes you, you have to take more and more strength to hold on to it because the current wants to take it on. And the new thing that's coming down that you may want, you can't grasp it while you're still using all your energy, which you shouldn't be using. Let it go as it passes. You can't grab the new thing because you're still holding on to the old. There's so much truth in that analogy.
Yeah, there's been times when I've grasped it and let go, and then grasped it again and let go, and then grasp it again and let go before I really let go.
Yeah, yeah. I try to hold both at the same time. That doesn't work. Good stuff, guys. Thank you.
Reminds me of that old Buck Owens song that the Beatles covered, Act Naturally.
Sing it for us, Drew.
Yeah, you would lose so many listeners on the podcast. Unsubscribe button would be clicked by everyone.
Oh, I would have cut it out anyway, Drew. Thank you, guys. If there's nothing else, I will see you guys next week. Thank you.
Right.
Hello, this is Buddy C. I wanted to make you aware of several recovery-related resources that I've posted in the episode description. These resources include a list of recovery podcasts, a free sober meditation app, daily recovery email, shared Google recovery calendars. Hope you put some of these resources to use and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends in recovery.